This is a pasuk that was very, very concrete today. This is the pasuk we're going to be dealing with. The lads grew up, and Esau became one who knows hunting, a man of the field. But Yaakov was a wholesome man, abiding in tents. Vayigdalu hanarim, the lads grew up. So we're entering into a new tkufa, a new period in the children's life. Some of Farshim say it was the age of 13, some say it was the age of 15. It was very young. And the next story we hear is that Yaakov is making some stew. Esau comes from the field, hu ayef, he's exhausted. Esau says to Yaakov, pour me now some of the very red stuff, for I'm exhausted. That's why his name is called Edom. Sell for me the birthright. Who needs a birthright? I'm starving. Just give me some food. Let me get out of here. Vayives Esau et bechora. He despises the birthright, and he sells it. Vayigdalu hanarim. That phrase is where I want to go today. How do people, I don't care if they're 13 or 15, in my book they're very similar. How do you go from being the children learning under Yitzchak Avinu, Rivka Imenu, experience of Shem ve'ever, experience of Avraham Avinu was still alive? How do you go from that to, and Chazal say, we'll see this tonight, he committed 5 sins on this day, including murder and killing Nimrod. Like, what happened? What happened that there was such a, what I would call almost a dramatic transformation so quickly in his life? And that's the question in source number 3. Ma garam la'esav by the arrow liyot rasha? Acharei shesafag Torah b'beit aviv v'gam misavo. He took in so much Torah from his environment. You can't get better mechanchim than that. He went off the derech. What happened? Now I'm going to say the following. I don't know what happened. And really, it's not about Esau. Even though we're learning about Esau, it's more to learn for our own lives. How do we ensure that we are able to stay on the straight and narrow path, ourselves, our family? What are the ingredients necessary that we're missing in Esau's life? And I'm also going to say the following. We can't comment on the chinuch he got. I know Rav Hirsch, you know Rav Hirsch. Had they been treated differently, things would have been different. I am not in a position to comment about great people like Yitzchak Avinu and Rivka Imenu. It would be, what would be a good word to describe? It would be foolish, audacious, I don't know, whatever word you want to use.
Presumptuous.
Presumptuous is a good word. The second question, which we're just going to touch on and we're not going to focus on, but I'm going to touch on it, is, was Esau doomed for failure? Which is really a question that needs a lot more attention and time when they're arguing already when, Esau's trying to get out of the womb and serve Avodah Zarah, and Yaakov is for the base medrash. Like, what would you expect from him when this is from moment go? Again, that question needs a lot more attention, but we'll touch on it as well. My friends, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to create the structure for tonight, and then we'll learn. I want to look at 2 levels. The first level is going to be looking at Esau, who is interested in an external existence, and we're going to be focusing on his internal psyche. The second is going to be looking at it from, let me rephrase that. The first is going to be looking at Esau's internal world is an external world. The second level is going to be looking at an external view based on his internal reality. Now, if that made no sense to you, good. That means we have to learn together. So let's start. The first level will have 3 aspects to it. The third I'll just make mention, not really go into depth. And then the second will be one idea. And I think we'll come away with a chiddush today, I'm hoping. Let's begin with source number 4. The Sforim write that Esau had not sinned, he would have been able to reach great heights. That he had different nature than Yaakov did not make him a rasha. It was his sins did, causing him to be cut off forever. The inclination Esau had toward the field searching for prey was created specifically for him as a way of serving Hashem, but he corrupted it. He wasn't supposed to sit by the Gemara. That wasn't the vision. The vision was, the Malbim and others say, a Yisachar Zvulun relationship, which means mother-in-law goes out to work, son-in-law learns. No, that wasn't it. It was Yisachar. I'm glad we're working together, my friends. The Yisachar goes out to learn, and the Zvulun goes out to what? Work, and the brothers what? Support each other. And that is the vision that Hashem had. Esau was meant to be in the fields. He was meant to go out and elevate the sparks and bring the physical world into the world of the spiritual to be able to support Yaakov Avinu. But Esau corrupted that. So when we say, wasn't Esau doomed for failure? The answer is no. He had a specific mission, and he took that mission, and instead of channeling it for spiritual purposes, he rather what? Distorted it to service of self. That idea of service of self is where I want to go. What went wrong with Esau? And again, I don't know, but the lesson again is for us. Let's do 1a, Siftei Chaim, where he says, what was the problem with Esau? Source 5, Ki nishar chitzoni bavad l'lo shum tochem pnimi. He lived on an external plane. You see, it's interesting. When Yaakov Avinu is called an Ish Tam, the Targum there translates it as Tava Ulpan, a person who desires to learn. It's the antithesis of one of the other. Esau is satisfied with superficiality, and Yaakov Avinu was interested in what? Depth. Teach me more. I want to understand. What's this all about? Where do you see in such a dramatic way the superficiality of Esau, where just whatever it is, I don't want to work on anything. I just want to have everything in front of me, and I don't even work at that which is in front of me, is this story we just read. He comes back from the field. He doesn't say, smells interesting. What are you making? What does he say? Give me from this red stuff. And he's called what? Edom. And then what does he say? Haliteini na min hadom hazeh. Just what? Pour it down. You know what pouring it down means? It's symbolic. And this is the key for 1a. He's not interested in process. Most people, everyone I know, when you give them soup, where do you put it? In a bowl. And you give them with, thank you got the right answer. And with the bowl comes what? A spoon. Taking it one step at a time is savoring it, it's processing it, it's making it yours. Haliteni now is like an animal. Just pour it down my throat. I don't want to have to process it. I don't want to have to really make it a step-by-step process. He brings here, and I love this explanation, the bottom left of the first page in source number 6. There's a pasuk in Iyov. Ayer pered Adam Yulad. A person is born originally as a wild animal, and Ayer pered, like a wild animal, Adam Yulad, that's how a person is born. Explains the Saba of Kelm in the arrow, Gevaldik Vort. Ayer pered tzarich lo lid Adam. Ayer pered. What's the end of the pasuk? Adam Yulad. The goal of us being born wild is for us to create. Adam Yulad is for us to create a what? A person. What is the goal of every parent? They want their child to be first and foremost. I'll give you a hint. You gave me the answer before I began. A mensch. Whether they're smart or not, that's a gift of God. What's the parent's role? grandparents, great-grandparents on Sov Kol Hadoros. You want to make them a mensch. Make them somebody who's going to be a sensitive person, a giving type of person. And that's why he says there are two births that every person goes to. Achad Leidat TV, one, we are born on planet Earth, and Leidat Chinuchit. The second is what we have to go through, each and every one of us in our lives. We have to work on ourselves. There's a point where the parents then turn it over to whom? Us. And they say, grow up, in a nicer way, but that's the message. And we have to work on ourselves. And that, my friends, is a lifetime process. What's so fascinating is, in source number 9, let's start with 8. This is Vayigdalu HaNarim. What does Vayigdalu HaNarim mean? Kol echad nasa atzmai. Vayigdalu HaNarim, when you say it's 13 or 15, it means they grew up and now they have what we call PR, otherwise known as personal responsibility. Personal responsibility. Right? A bar mitzvah boy, you have to make decisions for yourself. And at that moment, we now have moved to that stage, or part of that stage of grow up. Yaakov Avinu says, wow, let me see how much I can learn. Let me see how much I can grow. And Esau at that moment says, what? I'm tired of growing. Check out. I'm finished. And it's so fascinating. Now we get to 9. In Perek Lamed Vav Pasuk Aleph, when it talks about the children of Edom, what does it say of Esau? Ve'ele Toldos Esau hu Edom. These are the descendants of Esau, who's called Edom. But I know that. Why is it mentioning here? He's talking about his children. Even at a later stage, he still was Edom. He hasn't changed from that Edomness in him, of that red stuff, pour it down my throat. I just want to add a parenthesis here. And if you take away nothing else, you'll take away this. I'm hoping there'll be more. It's brought down in the Sfarim that if you go to this is very practical, and I'm rarely practical, that if you go to somebody's house and they serve a dish and you can't recognize it, you shouldn't eat it without first asking, what is it? What is this? Because otherwise you're behaving like Esau. Could you pass that green mush? I don't know why you would want to eat green mush, but that's already a separate story. What is this dish? It looks so fascinating. Eat something, you know what it is. Because again, there's that processing. I think in my head, avocados, not so interested. Avocados, wow, right? And 11. At Ezegil hi ishtalmut v'aliyah. Well, what age do you finally grow up? What age do you?
Never.
That's right. You got the right answer. Hatshuva ad kama shadam margish et atzmo lo mushlam. You're continuously growing until the age that you feel that you haven't reached there. And then you say to yourself, I have a lot more to go, which is the correct answer is, I'm continuously growing. That's why at the end of 11, the Sabbath Kelman, we know this idea says, you ever wonder why we call a scholar a Talmid Chacham? A Talmid means a student. A Chacham means a wise person. That's an oxymoron. Either you're learning or the Chacham is the one teaching. Well, which one are you? And the answer is both. I'm both. We never stop learning. We never stop growing. That's the beauty of Judaism. Now, I'll just add something personal here, which has nothing to do with life, but everything to do with everything. Is personally, when I drive and I have Waze in my car, so when I clearly see the destination in front of me, like, you go down the street, oh, I know where I'm going type of thing, I turn off Waze before we get to the end of Higata Layad, you've reached your destination. For me, this sounds so anti-Jewish. We have never reached our destination. We're always in progress. It's just something to what? It's something to think about. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just sharing with you.
I'm just so happy when I reach my destination.
Okay. I'm always in process. And we're always in process in life. Therefore, says Rav Feigl in source number 12, what was Esau's problem? Esau, I'm in the bracket, Yatsa l'tarbud ra'a mipnei shelo shamar atzmo min hataiva. What's the real problem of not processing? Here we come to the bottom line of 1a. He can't control himself from desires. It's not just that he lives such an external world, he's not working on himself. And that's the problem of living in an external world. And aval kimo behema, he's like an animal. V'taiva akra hachinuch shekibel beveit harav. What else sentence? His desire and his inability to rein in his desire is what uprooted all the chinuch that he got, all the education that he got. You can teach a child from here to tomorrow. If a child isn't ready and open to hear, but rather be somewhere else and doing something else, you're not what? You're not connecting. You're not connecting to the child. And that's why in 13, Rav Svei Zatzal, Hachisaron Shalei Tzavaya Shalom Ro Kol Hasagotav, Vakarotav Lo Yitzliach Lishlot Al Gufo. Despite everything that he knew, and we know that the head of Esau, you can go visit it in the Marasa Machpelah. It's there. The knowledge that he had was stupendous. But his body isn't buried there because he wasn't able to control his body. He wasn't able to have that ability of shlita. L'chein amar alav hanavi, bazui ata ma'od. Berega shirat hadoma adoma zeh, nibatul kol hasagotav b'fnei tavato. Forget about asking what this is and how you feed it. I just want this, and when do I want it? Now. Hadoma zeh niyet kol olamo. That red stuff was his whole world. He didn't think about anything else. And that's why he says, in the dot in 13a, kasher haguf sholet, when the body is in control, lo nishar klum ma neshama, the soul is out of the picture. Kol hachinuch she'anak mibeit aviv, kol ha'asagot v'shifot haruchaniyim shayu lo ba'olamo, ne'elmu k'lo hayu, they disappeared. You know, the imagery that I'm always struck with is the imagery that the Malbim gives about a horse and a rider. How many of you ever rode on a horse here? Oh, quite a number of you are horse riders. How many of you ever given your children horseback riding lessons? Less. Okay. It's very helpful. And grandchildren. It's very helpful. I'm on the same page. What about the horse and the rider? So if you know anything about horses, and here a lot of people have rode horses? Ridden horses? I don't, whatever the English is, yeah. If the horse is a wild horse, and you do not know how to control the horse, what will happen?
He'll fall.
Fall is a nice way of describing what will happen. You will be overthrown, and sometimes very dangerously. One of the first things they have to teach you on a horse is just being able to what?
Control the reins.
Hold it. Calm it down. Relax. It's okay. I'm in control. You know, it reminds me, this has nothing really to do with anything. I put my granddaughter, Baruch Hashem, was 7 months old. I put her in a car seat that wasn't...
I thought you put her on a horse.
No. I horse around with her, but not with that. I put her in a car seat that wasn't well put in, and the car seat with her weight went backwards. And she had a look of terror on her face. And I'm thinking to myself, that young? They already know looks of terror? I was like, wow, that's a new one. Okay, it doesn't matter. Like, Bubby, what are you doing to me? It's a separate story. Leave that aside. You'd see where trust begins, and okay. Therapist couch, 7 months old. I was in the car.
At least your daughter's not here to share.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on away from this terror. I knew where it was. I'm back on the horse and rider. I'm back. You see what happens to me at night? I'm not sure I'm better in the day anyway. The Malbim says the guf is referred to as the horse, and the neshama is the rider. The question is, who's leading the show? If the body is leading the show, then it's going to override and throw out the seichel. Let's put that in English. I want ice cream. No, it's not a really good idea to have ice cream right now. I told you I want ice cream, and I want ice cream now. Okay, I'll give you ice cream, no problem. Who's running the show? Or you say, no, it's not good for you. Don't eat ice cream. Oh, you're right, I shouldn't eat the ice cream. Great, forget the ice cream. Are we able to, and it's not just ice cream. Ice cream is obviously a metaphor about what I say, what I see, what I do. It's a metaphor for life. Who's in control? And it's a great imagery that I'm about to do something. I'm not sure I should do it or not. Just ask myself, am I able to rein in the horse? And if not, we know the. Now, I have a little secret to tell you. This is Olam Amidos Rav Kesselman, source 14. The pasuk in Mishlei says, "Hachzek b'musar al teref nitzra ki hi chayecha." Hold fast to discipline. Do not let go. Guard it, for it's your life. With regard to this pasuk, the Gemara writes that the reason a person is alive, so he can correct the midah, is not yet rectified. Therefore, he says a person must constantly strengthen himself in this regard. And if he does not, watch this language. What purpose is there to his life? We're all working on ourselves. And I have a very fascinating question that we could all ask ourselves. Is if we were to go around this room, which we're not, so don't worry, we're not putting anyone on the spot, and everyone to go around saying, without even thinking, what midah are you working on right now? And if you have to stop and think and say, working on a midah? Maybe, I don't know, then we're in trouble. That we should be always have on the forefront, am I making sense? The forefront of our minds, I'm working on anger, I'm working on silence, I'm working on contentment, I'm working on happiness, I'm working on something. But I'm a work in progress. My whole life I'm a work in progress. Question?
Sorry, why is there no meaning in your desires? Like, in giving into your desires?
Why is there no meaning to that? So it's an excellent question. Do you want to answer it for me? Why is there no meaning in giving into your desires?
That's being Sahara. It just leads you to bad things.
Okay.
A lack of growth? Maybe is that our conflict you're trying to...
Yeah, so one of it is exactly what we're talking about. There's no struggle. And life is about struggle. Two, it's a slippery slope. So again, no one here is ever going to live a life, I don't want to condemn you, of never giving into their desires. The question is, which desires are you giving into? And are you aware that I'm giving into them? And that makes a big difference. I know I'm eating this ice cream. I know very well what I'm doing. And there's a reason why I'm eating this ice cream. I just, did something that was really hard, and I deserve that. Great. I'm rewarding myself. That's great. I'm well aware. I'm able to have that control. But if you're not, then you're just living a life that's just going to spin out of control. You have a question in the back.
I have a question. I missed the first 2 minutes, so I'm sorry if you addressed it. But isn't there an essential, necessary value to Ratzon that crosses over to Taiva, but there's a line in between?
For sure.
Kind of Chachmas or Neshama comes in.
For sure. And what you're asking is like a world in its own right. I'm just going to make one comment, and that's the following. So it deserves more than I'm going to give you. I'm just going to offer one comment, and that's the following. Question is, where does Ratzon fit into this larger picture? And the comment I'm going to make is, really the only time you can work on reining in a desire is the first moment the desire appears on the horizon, which is AKA the first Ratzon. Once it already comes into a discussion, it's much harder to rein it in, which means that first moment, I'm using getting ice cream as a model. Oh, gee, I want ice cream. No, it's not good for you. You're right. And I move on. Once I start having a conversation, well, what type of ice cream? You sure you want that ice cream? Yeah, really, ice cream isn't good for you. By that point, you've already what? You've lost the battle. So really, you are right. To access that first Ratzon, that first thought, to hold it, to recognize it, that's when you're really going to be able to deal with anything. That's a comment, and we'll leave it at that. Now, yes? Right, you should make your will like the will of God, 100%. That's the same idea.
Evaluating is what I want, is that
Right, which is exactly the point. The moment you have that desire, ask yourself, is this desire aligned with the will of God? And right then and there, you're going to put yourself on the right trajectory. 100%, well stated. Okay, let's move on here. Listen to source 16. In my mind, it is one of the most gorgeous sources around. The word for man is Adam, which is derived from Adama, earth. In the Torah, there are no verbal coincidences. The reason for this name is that man is like the earth of which he was formed. When a seed is planted in it, the earth has a unique power to provide the environment through which the seed's hidden potential for life is expressed and the actuality of fruit. It's the same with man. He is born with an innate yearning to serve God, a yearning which is the seed of his spiritual life. Man, like earth, has the capacity to express his potential in the actuality of life full of spiritual activity. In other words, man, Adam, is meant to be God's garden. Is that not such a great refrigerator magnet? And this is something wonderful to go over to a person and say to them, how's your garden growing lately? Huh? His Adama, and bring forth a unique fruit, the fruit of his labors in a life, here's the key, of which, going back to what you were saying, an unselfish devotion to the service of God. How do you bear fruit? It's about bringing fruit for God. It's about moving beyond myself. I tell my students all the time, look behind you when you open a door to go through. That's the key of life. Recognize that there are people around you. It's very profound. You'll think about it. Not all earth has the capacity to yield fruit. Only earth, which is cultivated, retains its power, whereas a fallow field soon loses most of its ability to create produce. Not much can be grown in a neglected field. And what little does, unprotected as is from ravages of animals and the elements, brings negligible benefit to man. Once again, the same with man. A life which does not express man's innate spirituality, and again, it's innate, even for Esau, because it's directed self-servingly, instead of towards the service of God, is compared to a fallow field, unworked, unfenced, and unproductive. It is no wonder, therefore, he says, this is from Juggalo and King Rav Feldman based on the Gra, it's no wonder then that when Adam HaRishon sinned by self-serving himself, what was one of the punishments he received? Working the ground. And there's a correlation between the two. When you have served yourself, the ground which is supposed to serve you will no longer serve you, and you having to work the ground is a continuous reminder that you have to work yourself to serve God. Then we're going to the bottom of 17 and then up to 18. Now I understand. When Yaakov Avinu comes in with Esau's clothes and gets a bracha from Yitzchak Avinu, Yitzchak says, I smell the smell of your clothes like a field that God has blessed. Because what has Yaakov Avinu done? He has brought the world back to that level of Gan Eden. He's brought the world back to that level of the perfected garden. And that is why he explains in 18, Esau is being referred to as an Ish Sadeh. We look at it as a man of the field who's going hunting. He says you could teach it in the bracket in 18, a man of the wild, fallow fields. It's a field untended. If you're not going to work on yourself, you're not going to rein in your desires, it's that Adom Hadom, what's that from beginning to end of your life? Is it any wonder it's a life of being unproductive? And that's why our job in the asterisks in 19, to summarize 1a, V'zeh limud gadol ech lenatzel et shnot halimud harishonot tamid mitoch yigiah v'yitgabrut al hateva lachshir la'atid. Our job is to work on ourselves to know how to say the word no. And I'll just add, and I don't want to get into trouble doing this, I think this is so important for this next generation of entitlement. You know, again, different ages and stages of life, but I see this sometimes with the gifts given to a groom, a chassan, and a kala. Like, of course I should get. And, the girl begins off with more jewelry than I've gotten in 37 years of marriage. Are you following me? It's the bracelet that matches the earrings, which matches the ring, which matches the watch. Are any of you with me here? I'm not commenting on society. Okay, I just did. I think I am. But it's important in any way we can. And it's small things. I remember saying to my son-in-law, the protocol is that we buy you a becher or a kiddush cup. This is the price range. And choose in that price range. Are there much more expensive bechers? The answer is what? Yes. Thousands of shekels more. But there's a limit. And it's important not to say, whatever you want, please spend. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for us to say that to ourselves. Not everything you see that we can afford, we should buy. Yes, ma'am?
Are we forgetting to acknowledge Esau's kibbud av?
I'm not talking about that at all today. I'm ignoring it, yes. Thanks for asking.
He wasn't completely selfish and self-serving.
No, but even that was in order for what? To get the blessing. He had an ulterior motive. Even serving his father was an ulterior motive, but I agree with you, it was very special, but it was limited. Yeah.
Can you make the connection of who are we supposed to say? Where did saying no come? From who? I mean, in what, can you connect it?
Yeah, sure. This is the answer that we have to say to our horse. No, you have to rein it in. That was the last idea on this first level, that if you can't say no to yourself, then you're not working on yourself. Okay, that was just ending the first level. They say this, a beautiful Hasidic pshat. The famous pasuk, Kol Amar Shem Zacharti Lech Chesed Urayach Avak Lo Tzayich Lech Techacharai B'Midbar Beretz Lo Zrua. Familiar, anybody? Yirmiyahu Perek Beis. Hashem brought us into a land that was a desolate land, went through the midbar, and then he brought us into a land, Lo Zrua, that wasn't plowed, right? Wasn't planted yet, Eretz Yisrael. Deeper understanding Hasidic pshat is he brought us into a land, Be'eretz, where the word lo is planted. Where a land where Hashem says you can't eat whenever you want to off the tree. You have to give Torah maestros. You can't go wherever you want. There are divisions where Kohanim can go. There are rules. And that is Be'eretz Lo Zrua, that we're able to accept the word no. You have a question?
Yeah, I don't know if this is like what you're gonna fall into with, but is other than a physical level, I'm just curious spiritually why I'm not supposed to just be able to get what I really want physically.
Good. So now you've segued me into the next level. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Great. Okay, so let's work with me. You're with me 100%. So let's move to the second level. Again, we're looking at the superficial aspect of the internal process and psyche of Esau. So and they're all related. It's not like one or the other. It's like three components. So the first is not being able to process, not saying no. The second aspect of Esau, source number 20, is Haitalu mishicha lo'olam hazeh v'la'anotav. He had a pull, a desire for the physical world, for the pleasures of this world. Now, there is nothing wrong with the pleasures of this world, as long as they're used for what? For meaning and for purpose. You want a beautiful home? Great. Inviting guests, use it for, right? Okay, we dealt with that one. I thought. It's off. So. That's what they tell me. I'm leaving this alone. I can't find where I'm up to. Who wants to take over teaching for me? Okay, here we go. I found it. Here we go. We're doing great here. It's interesting that Rav Shach, who died around 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago. I'm on source, I don't know. It's the next page, top right source. He says, he was talking to Mechanchim, and he says, when you talk to people of this generation, you have to know what the generation is dealing with. He says, in the past, we were dealing with Haskalah. You know, the 1800s, you know, all the isms. And when you're talking to the people, so you have to deal with the isms. Today, no one cares about isms. No one cares about philosophy. No one even knows about philosophy. You know, I'll just add a parenthetical comment here. I teach in a seminary, very intelligent girls. I must say that. Okay, they can't read Hebrew. That doesn't surprise me. No one can read Hebrew. They can't read English. I mean, of course they can read. Don't get me wrong. But I can't believe how they're mispronouncing words. Do you know what I'm talking about or not? We're living in a society where we're raising ignoramuses. Okay, I finished that. That was my, I throw in.
Say that again, we're raising what?
Like they don't know anything. Ignoramuses. Now,
That's what people.
he says, what are we raising today? What should you deal with? B'dorenu, harechov, sochef. I'm in the bold. Epnei hadam le'ever shifa achad v'yichida. What is the call of today where people are just interested in having fun? You know, it's very fascinating. In Hebrew, the Hebrew word for fun is kef, which is Arabic. Because there's no concept in Judaism for fun. There's so many words for simcha, ditza, rina, gila, chedva, a lot of words, but not for fun.
No,
Bilui is what?
recreation.
Yeah, it's not fun. Recreation is healthy.
Not for me.
It could be fun. Fun is it's just for its own sake, and not that I can let go in order to what? Recharge. Now we understand. I'm going down in the source, which just has a 2 with the part of an arrow. Sodze haya galui liyakov kfar mireshit darko. Hu yodea sherekanut hanefesh lo timale mechurbana. V'cho machmadei olam. I'm across from 24. Lo yochlu lavi et hanefesh el sipuka. Yaakov Avinu understands that emptiness that one feels in this world can never be filled with giving it more and more. Hence, when Esau comes in and the Chumash describes him as Ki ayef anochi, I'm exhausted, I'm starving, it's not a physical exhaustion, it's not a physical starvation as much as a what?
Spiritual.
Yeah, it's his soul. It's who he is. He felt לאחר שטעם מכל הנאות והטייבos עדיין הרגיש את עצמו רעב ויגע. He had all the pleasures of this world, as we'll talk about in a minute, what he did that day. And he felt empty. He wasn't filled. Now, why not?
Does he recognize that? Of course not.
On some level he does, but he's not in a world of what? Processing, level 1. Someone who's thinking and processing will ask, gee, why am I this way? You know, I always think, and this is just a personal musing, that I see by us in Ramat Beit Shemesh, where do the kids hang out who are lost? I'll describe it that way. They hang out by makolets and food places, like pizza shops and ice cream joints. And smiles, this is not from a book, I feel like they're starving and they don't know where to fill themselves up.
You think food is going to fill the void?
They feel that food's going to fill the void, but what? It's not, and they're back there every night. Now,
Maybe this is the makor for like emotional eating.
yes, for sure it's emotional eating. Oh, this idea, yeah, interesting. So now let's go to Rav Kestenbaum on the left-hand side. A person never feels satisfied. A person who has 100 wants 200. After blindly indulging lusts On the contrary, the more he succumbs to temptation, the more his desires grow and cause him to want more and more. The seeming exciting yesterday quickly loses its appeal. Today it's invariably for more intense and exotic stimulation. A life of pursuing such illusory pleasures is a wasted life. Why? Because the same craving for money that drew a person to desire 100 still festers even after he obtains the 100. He wants 200. Once he's already acquired 100, the same whatever spurs him to desire more. A person lusts after money and whatever pleasures can never actually satisfy his desire, for no matter how much he has,
He wants more.
he wants more. It's a bottomless pit that can never be filled, and that's the answer to your question. Why is it important to rein in the desires? Because if you don't, it's going to spiral out of control. That, again, doesn't mean, I'm not talking about asceticism tonight, so don't get me wrong. Go out for ice cream afterwards. Have a good time. But with meaning and purpose. I'm going out for ice cream because I'm celebrating. I'm going out for ice cream for a purpose. Because if it's just about filling desire after desire, there's no what. No end. And you're exhausted. It's exhausting. And he goes on to say, ironically, people are busy chasing the pleasures of this world, often forget that their actual goal is to be happy. In their hyper-focus on their immediate desire for gratification, they overlook the things that bring them true, lasting happiness and do not stop to ask themselves, what have I accomplished with my hard work? Am I any happier now? And these people, it happens to be, are really the saddest people of them all. Because again, level 1A and 1B together, if you don't stop, you don't process, you don't think, you don't become an internal person, you're just going from one pleasure to another, and you just have to up the ante until you just what? I don't know. Which leads us, I want to take this a little bit deeper, my friend. It leads us to something very beautiful from Rav Lopiansky from Greater Washington, Silver Spring. Esau had a propensity for being less spiritual, but the ultimate decision rested with him and the choices he made. What happened on this fateful day? Rabbi Yochanan said the wicked Esau violated 5 transgressions on that day. He had relations with a betrothed woman, killed someone, denied God, denied the resurrection of the dead, and denigrated the value of the birthright. Well, that's pretty intense for one day's work. To understand in 27 where Esau went wrong, we must redefine 2 terms that we tend to understand on a superficial level. And if we can understand this, my friends, it goes to a very, very deep part of self. These 2 concepts are Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. We speak about them as basically they're the same, just Olam Hazeh is here, this world, and Olam Haba is where? It's the next world. No. These are 2 worlds that differ existentially. There's the world of this, where reality is here and now, the tangible and palpable. And then there's a world to come where reality is the entire panorama of events, and most significantly, the result. It's a world where all the different parts, past, present, and future, are comprehended together. The Olam Hazeh is, in a sense, divorced from God, and the Olam Haba is a world that is connected to God. What is this all about? So listen to what he says. Oh my gosh, we're going to move here. The world of this, on the other hand, is a post-creation world, which God divided into segments of time, the first day, the second. Hashem gave Esau a soul that was pronouncedly of this world type. Yaakov, he gave the world to come. However, Esau was not condemned to be wicked. He could have triumphed simply by subordinating the goals of this world to the bigger picture of Yaakov Avinu. This is similar to a person subordinating the origin of his body to the needs of his soul, and thus realizing the good within himself, which is what we've been talking about tonight. What was Esau's problem? He lived in the here and now. That's why, for example, murder is just killing this person. You're not thinking, like they say, by Cain, who killed Hevel, Kol dumei achicha tzoakim elai, the bloods of your brother. Why bloods? Many answers. One of them is, you're not only accountable for Killing Hevel, you're accountable for all the children that could have been born from him. There's consequences to our actions. You can't just live in the here and now. That's why the language is so weird. The betrothed woman. What does that mean? So we know in old times, they used to have, the woman would be betrothed, and then a year later, she would get married. We do it under the chuppah. We give her the ring, and now Mazel Tov, she's engaged. And then we actually have what? The Sheva Bracha, where they're married. Betrothal means that I know she will get married. It's a future vision. Esau doesn't work on that plane. He works on the where, the here and now, which is exactly what we're speaking about. If I'm living in an Esau mindset, all I care about is eat, drink now, whatever pleasures I have now. It doesn't matter what my cholesterol will be the next time I go to the doctor. All I care about is what? Now.
Here and now.
If I live in a Yaakov perspective, I have to see the totality of life, which leads us, and this is where I want to bring it home for us, and I think particularly in the tkufa we're dealing with here. I'm in the arrow in 29, which looks like a 27, I know, but it's a 29. True emunah, however, certainly as children of Yaakov, we have qualities in our DNA. We still struggle with emunah when challenges and difficulties come our way. We tend to think of emunah as something that can be grasped with the same mindset as experience, that is just a question of having convincing arguments and explanations. True emunah, however, requires a change of mindset and perspective. As long as the person perceives events as the here and now, he can find no truly satisfying explanation for a difficult challenge. But when a person views the world as today and tomorrow together, then he sees a very different picture. Working on emunah is more than studying arguments, proofs, and explanation. It's becoming a person of olam haba. And I find this to be very profound, my friends. We are going through a lot of difficulties. We're seeing a lot of young people losing their lives for the sake of OUisrael. And each one of these young men and women are Kedoshei Elyon. Their souls are straight up. And we ask ourselves, hello, 21, 25, what's going on here? So, and you could see why one's emunah could be what? Shaken. We're looking at it from the perspective of what? And that doesn't in any way mitigate the pain, the difficulty, the suffering, the anguish. No way am I mitigating, no way. I'm trying to grapple with it. This soul is not a soul that just came down here 21 years ago. This soul has a past and the soul has a future. And we're just seeing it in the blip of time. Living a Yaakov Avinu perspective means that whatever I'm going through in life, I can't just get hyper-focused about what? The here and now. There is more depth. There's more meaning. There's more understanding. And there is such a larger picture that we can't even begin to comprehend. So my friends, let's move to level number 2 now. Let's summarize level number 1. Food for thought for today. Idea number 1 is ask ourselves, what midah am I working on? Ask myself, what does my garden look like? Ask myself, how often am I reining in my horse? What does my life look like? In my own self and the people around me who I'm responsible for? Where did Esau go wrong? Vayigdalu hanarim, when he was told to grow up, he says, I'm finished growing. When this is really the beginning of your life, and we're all at the beginning of our lives because we've never reached our destination. Today, I'm growing in a way that I couldn't have possibly grown yesterday or the day before. Wow. Upward, onwards, growth, amazing. That's the world of externality that Esau's internal process is about. I want to share with you, in the few minutes we have left, a gewaldig chiddush to walk away with on level number 2. Source 39, Rav Wolfson Zatzal. The Medrash tells us, again, how is it possible? One fine morning, Esau goes out and kills Nimrod, And what went on? And he became, vayives Esau et Bechora, like it turned on a dime. So we know this day Esau had killed Nimrod in order to steal a precious set of clothing from him. These were the garments with rare spiritual properties that Hashem himself had made for Adam HaRishon. They say that you just looked at a certain animal and the animal came to you. Esau wanted these clothes because what? He wanted to be a hunter. So these clothes were very important for him. So he went out that day to get those clothes. And he just spiraled. What happened? So he says, by telling us that the boys grew up, the Torah is hinting on this day, the day that they turned 15, Yaakov and Esau experienced a dramatic transformation in their inner lives as well. There was a change in who they really were. And he says there are two ideas you have to know about. He develops them at length. I'm just going to make mention of them. One is the idea of time, and two is the way Hashem sets up a balance of good and evil in our world. Let's explain. We know in 41 that each person creates the days of his life one day at a time. They constitute a faithful record of his life, an autobiography inscribed by his own actions. All of us are in the middle of writing a book. Every day we've written what? Another page in this book. And if you ever write books, you know that you have the ability to edit it before it goes to print. Once it goes to print, it's ready what? Too late. Every night we say Kriyat Shloimeh, we have vidui. Every Erev Shabbos is a time for tshuva. Every Rosh Chodesh, right? We're coming to Thursday is Erev Rosh Chodesh because it's Sunday, right? Yom Kippur Katan. Every Erev Rosh Hashanah. We have times to change the transcription. All of individual spiritual accomplishments are contained within his days. A lifetime of mitzvahs and maisim tovim, every word of Torah and prayer, all the prizes he wrested from recalcitrant world, the spoils of the struggle, the fruits of his labors, all locked within his days like an immense treasure in a long row of strong boxes. But as each day is completed, it goes up to heaven, where it continues to exist on a higher level of being. During a person's lifetime, however, his days are separated from him by a great distance, and their effect on him is weak and indirect. But all this changes suddenly, dramatically, in the last day of a person's life. A short time before a person leaves the world, all the days of his life return to him. You read this in these, people have a near-death experience. They describe it over and over again as if they see their entire life in front of them. Time doesn't exist. Now let me go on to explain. You had this?
I've had it 3 times.
Okay, great.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing. Have you had this experience?
I've actually been dead 3 times.
Okay, okay, sounds fascinating. It is a separate subject. Okay, I'm glad to have you back alive.
Me too. Me too. I really walk around every day thanking Hashem. 82 years old. And
Well, can I know? You don't look it.
It was a baby born dead. And they
Wow,
removed me and then-
wow, look at that.
Yeah. It's
Wow,
all in his hands.
amen,
The
amen.
mission that he has you designed to take, and
That's it, I love you, you're great.
yeah.
Okay, next Monday night, 7 o'clock, here are the experiences of Mechaya Mason 3
I
times.
can't wait.
Okay, so, everyone say, work with me.
Helped people in hospice when
Wow,
they were dying.
wow,
So
beautiful,
that's
beautiful,
what
beautiful.
the experience
Beautiful.
was for.
Wow. Hold on a second. That's what we're talking about. Using the life for what was given to us, 100%. Here's the key that he says. On the last day of a person's life, all of their life comes back in front of them with tremendous intensity. And you find that people say that when they were by the Rabbi and when they left the world, they became spiritually elevated as a result. And this is why Elisha asked from Eliyahu. Eliyahu says before he leaves, what would you want? I want double the amount from you. How can I give you double? I don't even have it. How? If you see me being taken away from you. If you see me being taken away from you, then you have seen me not just as me, but the totality of my life of me. I am much greater than just me, and indeed you'll be able to have double the amount. And this is idea number 1. When you're around a tzaddik, if you are a growth-oriented person and you're around a good person, you will gain energy. It's very much of energy, and you will be transported to a higher level of spirituality. It works the other way too. If you have a propensity for evil and you're around a really evil person, you will take on their negativity. Now we come to the punchline. on the last page. I'm doing it outside. I'll just do the last piece inside. Hashem has set up the world, Zelu Matzeh Salokim. For all the forces of evil, there are forces of goodness. For all the Hamas, Yimach Shemam V'Zichram in this world, there are forces of goodness, and we're seeing this, the amount of chesed, and the amount of davening, and the amount of camaraderie, we see it. When there was an Avram Avinu in this world, there had to be a balance of an individual who believed in the forces of evil. Who was that? Nimrod. Nimrod from the word mered, which is rebellion. Avram Avinu represented monotheism, believe in God. Nimrod represented with the same strength, no, throw him in the fiery furnace, no God. Now watch what happened. I'm doing this outside, but it's in English, you can follow. The day that Avram Avinu left this world, who was most probably by his bedside? Yaakov Avinu. What happened to Yaakov Avinu on that day? He was propelled to the greatest of heights. He wasn't just a 15-year-old boy. He was someone who took on the power, the characteristics, the love of learning, the growth of an Avram Avinu. He became dramatically greater. The same time that Yaakov Avinu was by the bedside of Avram Avinu, where is Esau? Killing Nimrod. Nimrod, who was the greatest evil person of that time, and Esau, who had a propensity. He didn't have to follow it, but he had that propensity to evil. He therefore, like a magnetic pull, drew into himself all of Nimrod's qualities. What happened? Vayigdalu hanarim, 2 words. The Torah is hinting at something much deeper than that. There was a life-altering event that happened on that day. The death of the 2 greatest people, Avram Avinu and Nimrod, and the children being by each one of them, moved them dramatically into completely different directions. Let's end with 51. For there's a general rule that holiness and unholiness are each attracted to their own kind. A soul filled with holiness will draw to itself any nearby sparks of holiness, and a soul sullied by tuma will be especially vulnerable to any unclean influences in the environment. And that's a message for us. We have to realize that if we want to grow as a person, if we are growth-oriented, if we are people who process, if we are people who are looking for goodness, we are going to draw, like a magnetic pull, the experiences of goodness in this world and become better people. If our focus in life is negativity, is impurity, is all the, I don't know how to say that. I was going to use the word trash, but that might not be a good word. What the schmutz of this world, the tumah of this world, so we're going to be drawn there. And then you wonder, well, how did I become the person I am? And you don't even realize it's the influences that impact us, that change us. And we have to realize, where does it all begin? With ourselves. What are we drawn to? What is the language that we speak? And that, my friends, is really about what type of field you are growing. And the only person who can answer that question is ourselves. Ad kan for today.